Today on Rambling About Cars, it's 2022. Welcome to 2022, everybody. And we are coming into 2022 hot because we've got CES that had quite a few debuts that we're going to talk about today. But we're also going to finish part 2 of our two-parter. What are we going to expect in 2022 as far as debuts? We've got a lot to cover. So without further ado, it's podcast time. I'm Christopher Smith, and you know Mr. Chris Bruce across the way. How was your New Year's? I know we're supposed to jump right into this, but we need to catch up a little bit, man. How was your New Year?
New Year's was fine. Weather got bad here in Ohio, so what had planned to be a weekend trip turned into a one-day drive there and one-day drive back trip. So lots of driving.
Okay, well, we were planning to go out and have a little bit of celebration, but with COVID just starting to kick back up everywhere, we ended up just having our grand old New Year's Eve party here at the house. My wife almost lost her voice from singing 80s songs. I busted out the guitar behind me and I was just playing like terrible Queen songs. It was outstanding. I ended up passed out most of Saturday. So that's how you know it was a good New Year's.
Real quick right off the bat here, something I want to mention before I forget it. So for any of our audio listeners, if you're listening on Spotify, just in December, they started allowing you to rate podcasts. So if you happen to be listening to us on Spotify, that's a new feature there. Please give us a rating. If you're listening somewhere else and they let you rate and review, we'd take that too. But just want to throw that out there for any Spotify listeners.
The rates, the reviews, any likes, any subscribes, smash
Follows,
everything that you can.
Yeah.
Smash everything you can to help us out. The podcast is growing. We're growing slow, but we've got just the best fan base ever. And forward to doing a whole bunch of stuff in 2022. And speaking of, holy cow, man, CES. Were you expecting it to be as busy today?
No.
Because as we're recording here on Wednesday, we had most of the debuts happen today as we're recording. And I mean, it felt like CES was going to be a bit of a yawner because a lot of companies, they moved from in-person to just online debuts.
Right.
And we had some information ahead of time, to help us out, but it was still quite a day. And I think the big one obviously is the electric Chevrolet Silverado EV.
Mm-hmm.
It is revealed. It is a 2024 model. We're talking about it in the beginning of 2022. It's the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado EV. It's going to debut. Well, it's debuted now, but we're not actually going to see any production models until the spring of 2023 when they come out with the WT, the work truck. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the first one that comes out. And then in the fall of 2023, can you believe that, Bruce? We're talking about fall of 2023 here in 2022.
No.
Fall of 2023, there's going to be the Silverado EV RST, and that's going to be the range topper. It's kind of interesting, I think, how they debuted this. It's sort of the exact opposite of what GMC did with the Hummer EV, coming out first with their
I see what you're saying.
with their range topper, and then kind of going down through the various steps with their entry level, which is still like an $80,000 vehicle, with their entry level Hummer pickup truck coming last. And I mean, we're still a few years away from that.
Right.
Silverado, they're going to start right out with their base model truck. And maybe it's a smart thing because the base model 2024 Chevrolet Silverado EV work truck WT starts at $39,900. Now that's before destination. Once you put the destination charge in there, it's over 40. It's like 41.5 something, 41.5 and change in there. But still, they're saying that the truck will be available with a 400-mile range, which that beats everybody else out there. That beats the GMC Hummer. That beats Rivian. That beats Lightning with range.
It's worth pointing out that we're fairly certain Chevy was kind of tight-lipped about a lot of things.
Yes.
So we think that 400-mile range is not going to be for the standard truck. You might have to upgrade to a bigger battery to get that, at least for the work truck. For the RST, I believe we know that that's going to be the base battery.
I believe it. I believe it is. I believe that's going to be the standard battery. I know
for the work truck, it's
Right. Well, I'm glad you pointed that out because it's certainly worth noting. We have a fair amount of information. Obviously, the vehicle debuted inside and out, so we know how it looks outside, inside. We'll talk about that in a second. But because we're like still well over a year away from production, there's going to be more information coming from Chevrolet on this in the months to come. There are a lot of things that we don't know. They didn't really talk much about their battery other than to say it will have the largest Ultium battery they've ever done, which is, apparently where they're getting the 400-mile range from.
Which I could be mistaken, but when they unveiled Ultium, I want to say the biggest it could go was 120 kilowatts. So maybe it's around there, or 120 kilowatt hours. But yeah, we don't know yet.
I mean, we do know it has DC fast charge capability. It can reclaim 100 miles of range in 10 minutes. We do know that it will have up to 664 horsepower and 780 pound-feet of torque. That's enough for Chevrolet to say it should get to 60 miles an hour, estimated 4.5 seconds, or less than 4.5 seconds. So that's pretty equal to the Lightning performance-wise.
Yep. It's worth pointing out, though, again, so the number you just gave, that is for the RST. For the WT, for the work truck that's coming first, 510 horsepower, 615 pound-feet of torque. So
which is still
good. Yeah.
I think that's still very good. I mean, it beats Lightning all the way around. And the whole the sense that I had with this debut, Bruce, is that Chevrolet, they're aiming this at Lightning. It's like they don't even see Rivian. Right. I feel like they're just aiming this directly at Lightning, because they were also very, very keen to say, well, with our Silverado, you're going to have standard, like 10 power outlets. You'll be able to power your power tools, your toys. You'll be able to plug this into your house if there is a power outage, which Ford made a big deal about on the Lightning. Chevrolet also says, yes, you can charge other EVs with your Silverado EV, which was another
also does
another big point that Ford made with the Lightning. So I just feel like they're really kind of going right at Lightning. But one thing I want to talk about is the styling.
Okay.
Because the first comment on our debut article was, hey, the Chevrolet Avalanche has returned. And there's
our coworker Brandon has already started calling it the Evenlanche, Evalanche.
Evalanche.
The other Avalanche similarity is that it does have a mid gate that you can put down to extend the rear cargo area, and it's a very big extension. The standard bed, 5 foot 11 inches, with the cargo area down, with the mid gate down, 10 foot 10 inches. So might as well call it double.
That's a tremendous load floor, which, I mean, you had that similarity, you had that capability with the old Avalanche, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is only offered in a crew cab. So with that pass through, I mean, you're still going to have full seating inside. And actually, because this is designed from the ground up on the Ultium platform, I mean, this isn't a regular Chevy Silverado with electric motors. This is designed ground up, has an EV. And when you compare it to the Lightning looks like an F-150 that's been electrified. The Silverado EV looks like just its own standalone thing. And because of that, it has a shorter front overhang. That allowed designers to create a larger interior. Chevrolet says, if you're over 6 foot tall, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the front or back, you're going to be comfortable. And when you look at it, I mean, yeah, you get a sense that, okay, that's a pretty cavernous interior. It does have a front trunk, the frunk, if you will. That's not quite as big as you get in the Lightning, but with the bed capability, I mean, I think this is going to be just an insanely practical work vehicle, as well as just a great all around electric truck with more capability than you're going to get with a Lightning. For me, it's just a question of, I mean, Chevrolet, you're waiting over a year before you
That's what I was about to say. Lightning is going to come out with first mover advantage. We're going to have the Lightning first. And I got to, maybe this is conspiracy theory, but it gives Ford time if they want to, have introduce other versions of the Lightning. They're going to have months and months to work on that and do that. And, get out there and have something that could be a bit more competitive.
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting to see, because Ford's going to look at these numbers, see, oh, they're beating us here, here, and here. Well, we've got time. The basic vehicle's done. Maybe we can do something to rectify that somehow.
Well, I mean, we know now the Lightning configurator just went live a few days ago, so we know specific pricing for trims and options. And I know there's been a lot of pushback from Lightning people, just seeing online through social media, through forums. The cheapest Lightning you can get with the long range battery, which for Lightning we're talking 300 miles, not 400. The cheapest you can get a Lightning with that battery, $75,000. That's, I don't think people were entirely expecting that. And at that level, you're getting a truck with, I mean, it's not bare bones inside. It's a Lightning XLT, just with that battery option. If I remember correctly, it's a $20,000, $19,500 option on the XLT to get that battery. $10,000 is the battery, but then Ford also makes you pick up another luxury package, like the XLT luxury group or something, for $9,500. So it's a tremendous jump. I think if Chevrolet can come in with their WT and offer the extended range battery, I mean, even if it's like just a $10,000 option, they're going to be coming in at $55,000 for a very functional and I think very attractive truck with a 400-mile range. That's if I was Chevrolet, that's what I would be looking at. That's what I'd be figuring out. How are we going to do it at this price point? Now, Chevrolet has also teased a Trail Boss EV. Yeah. We don't have any information on that. All I did was to offer a photo, and in their press release, Chevrolet was keen to say there'll be the Trail Boss and more. So will we see an LT, an LTZ, High Country? It's hard to say exactly how that's all going to shake down, but Chevrolet was also keen to say they're going to have Silverado EVs at price points. I mean, starting at $40,000 for the work truck, something 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. The eye-watering bit, the Silverado EV RST in first edition, when it launches, $105,000, and that's before destination.
We should mention that that's for the first edition. It'll actually start like 80 something once the regular version comes, as I recall. So
a full, that's the first edition RST. That's
right.
Every option box checked. So,
yes.
But I mean, still 105 and change. Are you getting that, or are you getting a Hummer EV?
I would probably take the Hummer, but like we were just saying, though, the base price is going to be it's going to be less than half of that. So, are there people who are going to be willing to drop that much money? Probably. Like, it exists for those people. We shouldn't make it out that this is going to be the mainstream version of the truck is going to have a six-figure price, because it'll be, this first edition fully option model, but there will be others out there that are significantly less expensive.
Yes.
There's one thing I wanted to
go ahead.
One thing I wanted to point out real quick that's a bit of a mystery at this point for us is that, so just to get this out of the way, the WT can apparently tow 8,000 pounds. The RST can tow 10,000 pounds. And Chevy said that they were going to build a fleet version of the Silverado EV that could tow up to 20,000 pounds. We have not heard anything else about that version of the truck. We don't know what changes there are, what batteries it uses, what difference. All they said was, we are going to build one aimed at fleets that can tow 20,000 pounds. So yeah, when you said there's more coming and there's more to find out, that's true. Because we have just the image of the Trail Boss, and we have this 20,000 pound tow figure of a big question mark, basically.
Yeah. And if you go to motor1.com, you'll want to see our debut article there, because we were fortunate enough to also get into the studio with this truck. So we have a great first look video where you can get a really good idea of the Silverado EV. And regular listeners will know I'm not really a fan of Chevrolet's styling on the Silverado. I think the Silverado EV looks fantastic. I just love the shape. I love the design. I was something of a fan of the Chevrolet Avalanche. That vehicle, there's a real kind of love-hate scenario going on there. You either really love the vehicle or you really hate it for all the plastic cladding that it had. I don't know if I was in the love category, but I liked it. And I really like the way that styling goes on the new Silverado EV. And it's curious, Bruce, because I did the debut article on this. Nowhere in any of Chevrolet's material do they reference Avalanche once.
Well, of course not, because it's a vehicle they haven't made for a decade or more, and they don't want to have that connotation. They want it to be a Silverado,
right?
Not
and
an
it
Avalanche.
was right. Well, but it also, in my view, it sort of had kind of a sketchy gray area. It got trashed a lot for all the plastic cladding that it had. I found it very interesting. I mean, the new Silverado EV clearly has a lot of Avalanche styling cues, whether it was accidental or on purpose. It has the mid-gate design, and that's another gray area. From what I'm understanding from Chevrolet now, the mid-gate isn't going to be available on the work truck, which I think is ridiculous. If that's the case.
I don't know what would stop them in a way.
Money.
Huh.
Money. Oh, yeah, you want the extra, and maybe that'll be part of what makes the fleet version different. And maybe it will be offered on the WT. It's one of those many gray areas that we have with the current information we have on the Silverado EV. I did pick up that they seemed very specific in their phrasing to always talk about the mid-gate with relation to the RST. And when you look at the photos that we have photos of the mid-gates on an RST, but we're never shown photos really of the bed close up on the work truck on the WT. So
I had not picked up that detail. So real quick, for anyone who's watching on YouTube, the image that we have now is the single image that Chevy released of the Trail Boss.
Yes.
So that's literally all we've seen of it. The other thing I wanted to share with anyone watching, if you're not familiar with the Avalanche, if you're, maybe we have some younger listeners out there or something like that, I'm going to throw up a picture of it. So here is what the Avalanche looked like when it launched, and you can see it's a whole lot of body cladding. But
it's a lot.
They were
cladding.
Popular though,
and in later years they toned down the cladding. They did tone down the cladding, and they did have a pass through mid gates behind that, behind the second row seats there. I don't think it's as comprehensive as the new Silverado EV setup, but it still allowed people to carry much longer loads, basically get the benefits of having a longer pickup bed while still having the benefits of a full quad cab design for passengers inside. And yeah, I mean, it was an kind of an awkward vehicle for some. I know there were some haters out there. I know Chevrolet was razzed quite a bit for all the plastic cladding.
Well, they did. Here's a 2007 that we're looking at here, and the cladding you can see is basically gone. There's still a little bit around the bed, but they definitely got the message that the original design was pretty polarizing, and they fixed it.
Right. And I mean, it was called the Avalanche. It wasn't called the Silverado, but I mean, it was. Right. I mean, it was a Silverado. It was
on the same platform.
It was the same platform, different design,
whatever.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously the big news of CES. But that's not the only news of CES. Bruce, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's happening?
I will. So we hadn't actually discussed this beforehand, but I do want to throw it out because I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. And that is that GM didn't just announce the Silverado EV. They announced the Equinox and Blazer EVs are also coming.
That was a surprise. That was a complete surprise.
That one was a total surprise. We had seen teasers for the Silverado, and we know a GMC Sierra EV is coming as well, but this pair just came out of nowhere.
Not only was it mentioned, teased, Chevrolet actually released official press images of the Equinox EV, and we're looking at those now. If you go to YouTube, Motor One Podcast on YouTube, you can see what we're talking about. Again, I'm not typically a fan of styling, with GM, but I'm really liking what I see here with the Equinox. I think that's a really sharp looking electric crossover.
Yep. And they ride on GM's Ultium EV architecture, just like basically all the EVs they're going to be launching. Range is estimated at over 300 miles. And for the that was for the Equinox. For the Blazer, 250 to 300.
Right.
So
which is pretty standard what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, that's kind of
vehicles.
Yeah, and prices are going to start around 30 grand. So these will be fairly affordable vehicles. But yeah, just wanted to hit that real quick.
No,
that was a big surprise.
Good mention. Yeah, that had us kind of scrambling because
they came out of nowhere.
Well, on my side, I had information on GM's big press conference that they were going to do at CES. So I'm watching it in one area, and then I bring up the CES feed, and okay, well, there's GM CEO Mary Barra wearing something completely different. I mean, it's like, okay, she's doing two things at once. Obviously, one of them was recorded, but it's like, okay, for about 10 minutes, I'm trying to follow like two separate but similar feeds, and my head was starting to explode a little bit. But then it all settled down into one feed. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty exciting. And we didn't see the Blazer or the Equinox EV coming at all. So we were happy to grab that right away.
So getting away from General Motors and Chevrolet and things like that, we should also talk about that Stellantis, still a dumb name, Chrysler debuted not the production version, the nearly production version, the maybe production version, we'll call it, of their airflow concept. And we had actually seen this vehicle earlier, but they only gave us a few scant looks at the exterior. Now we have full look at the exterior, full look at the interior, and some specs for it. So this is going to be a production vehicle. They say it'll arrive in 2025. Kind of the speculation is it'll look a lot like this, but some things might change. The fact that, we're 3 years away from that's kind of just to be expected. But this general shape is what we'll be getting. The specs for the version shown at CES are that it is riding on Stellantis's Stella platform, STLA, specifically Stella Medium, which is fun to say. It has a theoretical range of 300 to 400 miles. 350 to 400 miles. And it has an all-wheel drive system that uses two 200 horsepower electric motors. So total of 400 horses. I like it. So for any like early 2010s music fans, they call them electric drive modules or EDMs. So for anyone who likes EDM out there, it's in the airflow. And the other big deal about it is that it has Chrysler and Stellantis in general's new infotainment system, which they are calling Smart Cockpit. And Smart Cockpit is being kind of jointly developed with Amazon. It will run Amazon Web Services, which for anyone when Amazon Web Services went down recently and you lost access to everything, let's hope that doesn't happen in the car. But so
I remember that day well.
That was last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that. But it will also be able to hook into any Alexa devices. So let me skip to this picture and you'll be able to see it. Just a moment. So if you're watching, you'll be able to see it. So this is the image they released of that. You can see it has home, living room, dining room, whatever. And there's a picture looking out of your Alexa device. And in this picture, it's a dog on a couch. So you can watch your dog from your car. But
so you can monitor your home. Yeah.
Yeah. If any security things, stuff like that, we'll just be able to, that feed will come directly into your car and you'll be able to see it. So that's kind of cool. They also show video phone calls. Hopefully that won't be too distracting in the real world, but we'll see. And then also kind of a home screen that if you're watching, you're looking at here. So it's separated into 3 columns. You've got drive mode on the left. You've got music in the middle. And then you have a shortcut screen on the right to, in this case, it's call somebody, access the USB or the aux cable, or change the seat ventilation. So, and that is going to be apparently the new look of Stellantis, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, etc. Infotainment systems. One of the things that they mentioned, one of the advantages apparently of this system is that it's a lot more adaptive than the old system, and that they are going to be able to do vehicle specific or brand specific features. So the two examples they gave were for a Chrysler Pacifica, let's say. Obviously, that's a big family vehicle. So they suggested that maybe it could have a family road trip planner where you could make a big media playlist and you could put in where you're going and it would tell you points of interest along the way. The other example was, say you have a Jeep. There could be a system that gives you guidance off-road. It could tell you, take air out of your tires, or here are good trails, or, stuff like that. So that could be interesting, especially since, Stellantis now is 18 brands, something like that. And they're all kind of, doing different things. So they're going to be able to tailor the infotainment software to a specific vehicle far more easily than they can today. So,
well, I mean, we certainly know that vehicles are moving in the direction of advanced technology at this point, where software systems, where they might have been sort of an afterthought, I think, with a lot of companies in the past, now they're borderline, primary job one in getting this dialed in, because with that software system, that's going to allow you to do the various updates, very specific things that will control various aspects of the vehicle. It's a technological time we're living in, and I think this deal with Stellantis and Amazon, it could be a good one. And I'm really liking what I see here with the airflow concept. It has a very distinct Chrysler look, which
it does.
In this day and age, with electricity just becoming more prevalent in vehicles, we're at a point, I think, where we're starting to see a lot of similarity in design. But this vehicle, maybe like directly from the side, it can be a little anonymous, but looking at it from the front or rear, I identify that as a Chrysler right off the way. And 2025, hopefully it's pretty close to the way this vehicle looks right now, because I think it can be a win. And Bruce, I think you'll agree, Chrysler really needs a big win, because they've got the Pacifica and the 300.
Which is shocking that it's still available. And I can't remember if I said this, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. The smart cockpit infotainment system, that will debut in 2024, they're saying, whereas the airflow will debut in 2025. So we'll get the new infotainment tech a year before we get this EV. And again,
what is it today, talking about 2024? Bruce, we just left 2021, man.
I know. And again, for any of our younger viewers, although in this case you're coming up on 80 years if you remember
the original Chrysler Airflow, God bless you. Email us get your great grandkids to email us.
So real quick, here are pictures of the original Chrysler Airflow. This one, I believe it was a 34. So yeah, the big deal with you look at this and you're like, oh, that's not that special. But the integrated headlights that integrated into the front end,
that was a big deal back then.
Yeah, it was called Airflow because it was supposed to be the first like mainstream aerodynamic car. Like you look, there were some like Bugatti and Tabo Lago and stuff like that had that teardrop look. But this was a car that a normal person could own that had that really teardrop shape. So you can see here, it was available in a coupe or in a sedan, I'm sorry. And then here will be the coupe if you give me just a second.
That was a radical look back then.
Yes.
Nothing else. And it was one that didn't really take off either, if my history is correct on that.
No, it did not. So what ended up, this was a complete bomb. It's one of those cases where someone is kind of ahead of the curve and gets things right, but no one appreciates it at the time. So this came out, it's a total bomb. And then the Lincoln Zephyr comes out, I think within 5 years. I believe it was late 30s, whereas this is kind of early 30s. The Lincoln Zephyr does basically the same thing with a aerodynamic look. And people remember the Zephyr and no one remembers the Airflow.
Yep, so. No, you're absolutely right. The Airflow with the early and middle 30s, it had almost more of like a late 40s, early 50s feel to it, because there was that period during World War II where automotive progress was basically put on
Stopped.
hold.
Yeah,
You
42
know,
to
while we were
45. There just wasn't anything.
while we were building you know, aircraft and such. So yeah, I mean, I think that's how far ahead Airflow was back then. So hopefully the new Airflow hits it out of the park.
Here, since we're talking about, I got to do this real quick. So here is a 36. Here's a first year Lincoln Zephyr. So only like 3 years difference from the Lincoln to the Chrysler, but you see they're doing very, very similar things.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, but the Zephyr I think is still a little bit more conservative, which is I think
well, which
why
makes sense because the earlier one failed, but you know, someone's got to get things going. Someone's
got to go for it. Well, speaking of pace, we're already half hour into this program, and we're supposed to be talking about cars that we're going to see here in 2022, and actually, that's what we've been talking about because it's 2022. We've now seen the Silverado EV. We've now seen the new Equinox EV. We haven't seen the Blazer EV. They didn't tease that with photos. No. We've seen the Airflow concepts. There are all kinds of vehicles that we're expecting to debut in 2022. I'm going to do just like a really quick read through of just our short list of vehicles. And then we're going to
short, but go for it.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the, maybe some of the major players here. So, exactly. There's the new BMW M model. There's Bronco Raptor, Ford F-150 Raptor R, the Alfa Romeo Tonale, the 5th gen Prius, Pagani C10, Civic Type R, Toyota Tacoma, new Koenigsegg, Toyota Corolla GR. Well, we're going to talk about that one in a bit. We can't pass that one by. Listed. VW ID Buzz, Maserati MC20, Polestar 3, the Aventador replacement from Lamborghini, the next Subaru Crosstrek, Chevrolet Corvette E-Ray, Ferrari Puro Sangue, BMW M3 Touring. Whew. And I know we're missing some things in there, but 2022 is going to be a very active year. Bruce, why don't you pick one of those?
Which one do I want to start with? I've got all these tabs
and
open.
We'll start here. I mean,
let's start with one that's been a long time coming. Let's start with the Ferrari Puro Sangue, which as I understand translates to thoroughbred. I hope I'm right about that, but that's my understanding.
I think we did an article way back in the day when Ferrari first announced the name of how to pronounce it.
Yep, one of our Italian crew from Motor One Italy said it for us. We recorded it and wrote a story about it. I could probably track that down here in a second I
got it. Tell us about the Puro Sangue.
Okay, so this was a vehicle that was announced in 2018. And all we know so far for certain is that in 2018, Ferrari said it would debut before the end of 2022, and we're now in 2022. And as we're looking at here, we have started seeing spy shots of it in what is clearly the production body. Finally, as you can see here, though, this thing is still under super heavy camouflage.
Yep.
But you can at least look at that and say, okay, I can see a vague shape of what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I actually wrote up these spy shots. These were from December 2nd. That's the last time we'd seen it. And I mentioned Ferrari doesn't call it a crossover, but it was kind of marketed as Ferrari's first crossover. But you look at it, it doesn't really look like a crossover to me. There's not much of a ride height. It sits pretty low. You can definitely see that there's a fourth door back there. And it's got a hatchback type shape. It's going to kind of be somewhere between maybe a wagon, although Ferrari would probably kill me if they ever heard me say that, and a crossover. But that is a market that we've seen so much success for companies in. Think about the Lamborghini Urus, the Bentley Bentayga, the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, or the Aston Martin DBX. There's just so many examples of that type of vehicle. The current rumor is that the base powertrain will be the plug-in hybrid twin turbo V6 that's in the 296 GTB, that new model. And that makes 818 horsepower and 546 pound-feet of torque. So just a monster. There's also a rumor of a V12 version. That's a bit less clear. But yeah, so finally, after what is that? Basically 5 years, the long awaited Ferrari is on the way.
It's certainly been a very long time coming. And you know what? If they keep it pretty similar in styling to the GTC4 Lusso that I think
It kind of looks like it.
was, I think 20, I don't think it was offered last year. I think 2020 was the last year, or maybe they discontinued it earlier in 2021. I just remember the timing being, pretty convenient. Okay, here goes the GTC4 Lusso, which at that point had been sort of your family Ferrari, right? That was the one that had seats in the back that you could actually haul some stuff in the back, that had all-wheel drive. That was sort of the all-season family-friendly Ferrari. And now the Puro Sangue is going to come along. I'm excited to see it, and I know we razz about SUVs and crossovers a lot. A lot of performance-oriented people out there do. But you know what? If vehicles like that will allow automakers to make vehicles, like the 296, like the SF90, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
See, I agree with that argument when crossovers let Porsche keep building the 911. Ferrari's a whole other different tier, and I feel like this is a bit more of just a pure money play. To my knowledge, and I am not an expert on this certainly, but Ferrari has no issue selling the cars that it makes now. That, they make money hand over fist.
Oh, sure.
And I wonder how necessary this vehicle is in reality.
Well, I mean, look, Lamborghini has one. BMW's had one forever. I mean, you could say they kind of led the charge in the more upscale performance.
Yeah, I'd say BMW and Porsche were kind of, and Mercedes, but yeah.
And I mean, look at BMW now. It's like, how many more SUVs can we make? How many more? There's, let's see, we've got, I mean, there's a 9. We could do a 9. We haven't done anything with 9 yet, right?
Right.
We could do a 9.5. We could do the BMW X 6.235. It's the market's there. People are buying them. I can't blame Ferrari for trying to dip a toe in here, especially if it still remains a strong performer and all arrows point in that direction. Bring it on.
I'm being too negative today.
I mean, we'll see what they have. Well, was it Chris Harris that said, the only people that are going to buy the Puro Sangue are like rich people with no taste or something? And I found that to be just absurdly harsh. It's like,
I kind of agree with them. What if I agree with them? Does that make me a bad person?
If it's a good looking vehicle with good performance and you like it, I mean, how is that tasteless? How is that tasteless? Now, if Ferrari
feels
comes
like a pure money grab, it feels like,
but okay,
where can we make a quick buck?
No.
We make a ton of money every year. Where can we make more?
The pure money grab would be, okay, let's take the let's take the what was Ferrari
Maserati
using?
Levante or something like that. Yeah, they were using Levantes as test mules.
Yeah, let's just take this Maserati Levante. We'll put on a different hood. Okay, we'll put some Testarossa style vents on the doors. We'll put a Ferrari badge on it, and we'll sell that for $350,000. That would be the tasteless money grab.
Okay, you're right.
They spent years developing this vehicle.
Yep.
I at least want to give them a chance to show, hey, if you want to call this thing tasteless, fine, but it's going to outrun, and just outclass a lot of quote unquote performance vehicles from other higher level manufacturers. Never mind some of the mainstream manufacturers. Give them a chance. Ferrari, send one my way. I'll drive it and give you a good review.
Fair enough. For anyone watching on YouTube, this is when they were using Levantes, sliced up Levantes clearly
Yep.
as Pro Sangue test mules, but that stopped kind of last year. This is from 2021. So yeah, in the last basically month or so, we've started seeing it under the production body. But yeah, okay.
So
What
I'm willing. I'm willing to give him a chance. Let's talk about the electric
that people can afford rather than a Ferrari. So pick something affordable.
I was going to talk about the Corvette E-Ray. Okay. Well, let's jump to Civic. Let's jump to Civic Type R. You want to jump to Civic Type R?
We do Civic Type R.
Because I think we need to talk about that. We know that the Civic Si, you've heard us kind of not be too enthused about the Si. So I know for me personally, I'm holding a lot of hope that the Type R is just going to be awesome in every way possible, right?
There is a lot of hope with this vehicle, partially because it's kind of supposed to be the swan song for non-hybrid assisted Honda performance cars. That's what we're hearing, that this will be the last Type R not to have some kind of electrification. And so if they're going to do it, they got to go out with a bang. Like, you know, if you're going to go, you got to go big at this point, because it sounds like we're not getting another shot at this.
And I mean, and I guess that raises the question, okay, what is the definition of big? Because the current Type R is what, 306 horsepower?
Yes.
It's front wheel drive. It hasn't gone the all wheel drive route like so many other cars have, like the GTI, like the Focus RS did. The question is, how much more power do you want to put to the front wheels? Because all indications say that the new one's gonna stay front wheel drive. We haven't heard anything that says they're going to give it all wheel drive. So it's going to be front wheel drive. We've heard some rumors say that it's going to be up to 400 horsepower. I've driven 400 horsepower front wheel drive cars before. Even when there's a good differential working, it can be a handful. Now granted, these cars were older front wheel drive cars. They still had good mechanical differentials. Didn't have all the electric wizardry that we get today with vehicles. But when you're talking about that kind of power, I mean, if you roll on the throttle mid corner in a rear wheel drive car, you're still going to have some turning capability, which is good because the back end's going to step out and you're going to have to do a little bit of opposite lock to get yourself back in line. You do that with a front wheel drive car, even with a clever diff, you lose traction. The car's just going to start going straight ahead until you get traction back. So I don't know that I buy some of these rumors that say 400 horsepower. I would expect it's going to be more than 306, but then again,
go ahead and make your point, and then I'll give you what I'm thinking.
We were expecting the SI would have a little bit more power than the outgoing model, but it actually had a little bit less. But they retuned it so the power comes on in a different way. That could entirely be the case here. And I don't know if I would be really that upset if they have 306 horsepower, if they retune the engine so it's making a little bit more power in the lower range where it's a little bit more usable. And then obviously they have the suspension retuned, they have things tightened down. I don't think that would necessarily be bad. I think if they did something up to like 320, 325 horsepower, I think that would still be okay on a front wheel drive platform like this. It would give it that extra kind of punch that says, okay, this is the last type of car you're going to see like this with a Civic Type R badge on it. Let's go out. Let's have some crazy, ridiculous tire smoking fun. What do you got, Bruce?
So I partially agree with you. Here's I have no proof of this. It's just what I'm thinking, maybe what I'm hoping in a way. What if rather than increasing power, they put an emphasis on handling and weight? What if they put super trick adaptive dampers in and also shed as much weight as possible and create something that, maybe in a straight line, it's marginally quicker, but when you're actually behind the wheel and driving it, it's a ton more fun, just tossable, just exactly what you would want. We had this conversation just a few weeks ago with our Festivus story that, super high horsepower cars are not always that much fun on the road because you
Right.
can't really exploit that power. That I think Jeff Perez basically said it. He would
Yep.
rather drive spiritedly on the road in a GTI rather than a CT5 Blackwing. That, on the track, the CT5 Blackwing is just magic, but on the road, it's almost too much power.
You
Whereas
have
the
to be
GTI,
restrained. Yep.
yeah. What if Honda did something like that? And I think there's some precedence for that. Hold on, let me
Well,
share this.
if you follow the same formula that they took with the Civic Si, then you're spot on. That'll be exactly what they do. We won't see any power increase from the new Civic Type R. We'll just see the engine retune for, better low or mid-range power with improved handling. So it makes for a better track toy, right?
Well, even just a better driving toy. Like you know, uh, it's not significantly faster, but it's more fun on the road. And what I want to say about that is that there's some evidence that maybe this could happen. So in 2020, they launched the Civic Type R Limited Edition, and that was they basically cut out 46 pounds from the car. And they used it as a way to go up against Renault and their Megane RS Trophy R, which is a hell of a name. But those two cars right now are the fastest front wheel drive cars that you can get, at least around a track. That they both kind of have a balance of power and handling to be really quick for a front wheel drive vehicle. And that's what I want from the last Civic Type R. I want it to go out with a bang, not by being stupid quick in a straight line, but by being just a fun tossable vehicle.
Well, I mean, Bruce, what do you think about the changes that you said? The weight reduction, the really focused suspension tuning, but go ahead and add another 20 or 30 horsepower. I mean, do you think
I think
that's
20 or 30 horsepour. I don't think 400 is too much, but
400?
yeah,
Yeah, I think 400
20,
would be too much.
15, 20. I think, yeah, that I think could work fine. But I think that 400 number is just borderline unusable in a vehicle like that.
I mean, part of me wants to see it because there's a part of me that just remembers that experience of just holy hell, grab onto the wheel, do not let go. I don't care if it's a straight line, do not let go. I can't breathe. I can't see. There's too much tire smoke inside the cockpit. There's too much tire smoke in front of me. This is hilarious. I'm not going anywhere, but it's hilarious. There is some silly fun to be had there. But that's one part of me talking. The other part agrees with you. Let's make it a little more razor focused and not just toss a bunch of horsepower and say woohoo.
And so before we go to the Chevy E-Ray, which is also worth talking about, there is something for our viewers. We might get an answer to these questions pretty soon. And that's because a prototype for the Civic Type R, and if anyone is familiar with Honda news over the years, their prototypes are borderline production cars. They generally, when they show a prototype, it's the production car minus, a little few changes here and there. It's going to debut at the Tokyo Auto Salon, which runs from January 14th through 16th this year.
Just coming up next week here.
Basically next week. And I don't know. Hopefully they don't just show us the same car with the same camouflage and stuff. But I think that's getting some of these details next week.
I think that's the intent. They're going to be showing the Civic Type R prototype with a special camouflage designed for the car and apparently for the show. I don't think it's going to be a full reveal, but they're going to have the prototype there in public for people to walk right up to and look at. I guess the question for me is, will they drop any hints as to what they're doing with it power wise?
I hope.
Or are they just gonna put it there and say, yeah, check back later? We'll see.
Well, we'll know next week. But now on to the E-Ray.
We'll see. You want to talk about the E-Ray?
Yeah, you brought it up, and I think it's a great one to talk about. We a few episodes, it's probably like 10 weeks or so ago now, but we had a little bit of E-Ray talk. I think it was right around when the Z06 was debuting, about the kind of the whole family hierarchy of the Corvette family, the C8 Corvette family, and where this is going to slot. So,
well, I mean, it's believed that the E-Ray will take the place of the Grand Sport in the former lineup.
Yep.
that was a leak that actually came out, I think, almost a year ago. And I tell you
Yeah,
what, that leak has been dead on accurate so far with
exactly.
talking about, the Stingray and then the Z06. So it seems like it's a pretty likely case. We've got some spy photos. This was an article that I wrote here back just a couple weeks ago in December that claims to show the E-Ray in public without any camouflage. And surprise, it looks like a C8 Corvette. Actually, it looks like a C8 Corvette Z06. It has the kind of sort of the wider rear haunches there. It has the slightly redesigned side intake of the Z06. But then when you get to the back, it doesn't have the center exit exhaust
Yeah.
of the Z06. It just has the regular side exits. So the theory there is, okay, this is going to be the E-Ray, and the E-Ray will be a hybrid Corvette. All wheel. So, I mean, that'll be the first, right?
Mm-hmm.
An electrified Corvette. It's supposed to be all wheel drive with power going to the front wheels via electric motor and power to the rear wheels via the regular 6.2 liter V8.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the take there on the E-Ray. And I mean, yeah, it's, you know what, the C8 has been all about firsts for Corvette. It'd be the first time it has mid-engine layout. The Z06, the first time it has this flat plane crank V8 that's the highest revving, and now the highest output naturally aspirated V8 of any production car ever. I think that's a great way to send us into electrification.
Mm-hmm.
Power wise, there's still a question on what the hybrid might make. The 6.2 liter V8 should be unchanged.
Right. They wouldn't have to change that.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head here because apparently I didn't write it in my debut in my my Spy Shot article, but I think I think the estimates were coming out somewhere like around 5 or 550 or so.
That would make sense. 100 horsepower from one or two electric motors. That's entirely believable for power in the front axle. That would get you there. And then I remember, as we keep talking about it more, I remember more about the conversation we had, and that the Grand Sport was always supposed to be kind of it's not quite as hot as the Z06, but it's certainly hotter than a regular Corvette.
Yep.
And it's kind of everything that we are seeing from this vehicle, that you're
Right.
getting some of the body panels from the Z06. You're also getting some of the bits and pieces from the standard C8, that this will have more. It'll certainly have more power than a regular C8. Whether it'll have Z06 power or not, it's unclear, but it's also going to weigh more. So, maybe it'll be quicker in a straight line with the all-wheel drive. Kind of hard to say, but around a track, the Z06 I think is going to kill it, just because that's everything that it's supposed to do.
Right.
So, it's a compromise, but I don't mean that in a bad way that it's a compromise. It is, horses for courses, and this will do very good things in certain areas, and the Z06 will be better in other areas.
The Z06 will be more track focused. The Grand Sport will have good power, but it'll be more of like a cruiser, more of a comfortable kind of Corvettes. Another article written by our colleague Jacob Olivia back in October said that, okay, this could have up to 650 horsepower. I think that number is a little high personally. I think that's getting a little close to Z06 country there, even if the E-Ray will be heavier, not quite as track focused. But the rumor is also that it could hit 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds flat. I mean, with the regular
drive and electric motors, that's not
not hard to believe, considering you can already hit 60 in 3 seconds with the Stingray, right? So I think I've been a big fan of the C8 thus far. I love how they've shaken things up a little bit by moving the engine behind the driver, and then with their exotic sounding flat plane crank V8. Now I'm super excited to see electricity get into the mix, and I'm going to be over the moon when you have 1,000 or 1,100 horsepower Corvette Zora with the twin turbo V8 and a hybrid system. I think that's going to be amazing.
So while you were talking, I was listening, but I was also trying to track down that story. So here, hopefully I'm clicking the right one here. I am. So here's that story you were referring to with kind of the family tree for the C8 family that you wrote back in March. And the rumor then was that it would have the 6.2 liter V8. There would be a pair of electric motors at the front with a total output of 600 horsepower. So from motors and an engine. That was the rumor at the time. So,
well, and I mean, and like we said, that story's been spot on. So,
yeah,
I mean,
everything about the Z06 that those rumors have had has been spot on. So, it's, maybe, 600 horsepower, all wheel drive, replacing the Grand Sport, like that. Yeah. That sounds good.
I'm on board with that. Bring on electricity. I know if you have hate mail, send it to me, podcast@motor1.com. Oh, these electric cars are soulless. No, they're not. I don't want to drive a washing machine. Good. Don't drive a washing machine. Trust me. Anybody who's driven an electric vehicle with some measure of performance will tell you it's not a washing machine.
I mean, even if an E-Ray has 550 horsepower, let's say it's, a slightly low, that's still going to be a stupid quick vehicle. So it's not going to be boring at all.
All right, Bruce. Well, we've got that big list. We've got maybe one more or two more that we've got time for here.
Let's call it two more.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you live here. Which would you rather discuss? GR Corolla or new Tacoma?
GR Corolla.
Toyota would you rather talk? Okay.
I know the Tacoma is going to be the bigger seller, but I am hungry for a GR Corolla. Corolla just, for some reason, this car takes me back to like the Celica GT4 days of the early 90s. And I always loved that car. And for the longest time, Toyota was a real player in Stage Rally, World Rally Championship.
That too. Yeah.
And then that kind of went away for a while, and I'm starting to get shades of that coming back. Yeah. And GR Corolla, I am anxious as hell to see this thing come out, to see what it's going to cost, because I am seriously, with the Mazda having a few more issues, I am closer than ever to saying, okay, that's it. I can afford a new car, stop being a cheap ass, go get a new car. And that might be it.
Yeah, that would be a good one. So for anyone who hasn't been following along, Toyota. So if you remember, GR Yaris comes out. We covered it on the site. Toyota USA started putting out like little teasers and stuff like that about the GR Yaris. And it was weird because we knew it wasn't coming. And then these rumors about the GR Corolla started percolating. And they percolated for a while. And then just at the end of 2021, they started officially teasing it.
By officially teasing it, we should point out they still haven't actually said anything, have they? Have they mentioned GR Corolla by name? But I mean, we're seeing the photo. I mean, it's intentional. We're seeing the photos. We're seeing the car there, but it's just
it's this share. No, here, let me switch sharing. This one was kind of the one that gets you. Well, here, I'll do the first one. They've slowly showed more of the vehicle here. Hold on one second.
I mean, and maybe it's biased because I'm really interested in the GR Corolla, but I love what Toyota is doing with this teaser campaign, because they're not just dropping a picture. Hey, something is coming soon. It's like they're hiding it in teasers for other cars.
Yeah. So this image that we're looking at now, I'm going to be zooming in some, so I hope you can see. So you can see this was an Instagram post, very, very, very tiny in the back. You see this camouflage Corolla, but also what's on there. Where are there? There are a few to
let listeners know, if you're not on YouTube, we're looking at a picture that Toyota posted on their Instagram account of the interior of a Toyota Corolla, and
it's actually a press image. It is an old press image of the current Corolla.
Yeah, and it's, hey, you know what? Automakers do that all the time. They want to keep their followers interested. They want to put out interesting stuff. So at a glance, okay, well, they're sharing an interior image of the Corolla. But yeah, when you zoom in, you can look outside. Oh, there's a little camouflaged something over there in the distance. And then Bruce, tell us about all the clues.
So
inside
the
cockpit
time
here.
You look at it at first, you're like, it looks like, if you just glance at it, it looks like it's 616. But when you zoom in, you see the first number is actually a G. So what's G16? Well, G16, the engine in the GR Yaris, the code name, the internal name for it is the G16E GTS. and that is the 1.6 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder from the GR Yaris. And I know if you're not familiar with this vehicle, you're hearing 3-cylinder. Oh my God. No, everything says that this little engine is just the best thing ever.
It is awesome. It's like 258 horsepower or something, 257.
So it depends. So Japan, Japan gets 268, Europe gets 257. We're not sure which version of it we're getting because obviously in Europe the emission stuff is a bit different.
But aren't we kind of sure what version we're getting because there were more clues, Bruce?
Yeah, exactly.
In that photo, right?
So if you look at the HVAC, the temperature, you can just see 2 on one side and you see 68 on the other, hinting 268 for 268 horsepower. There's one more I'm missing. Something about the map. I swear there was one more. Anyway, but so okay, that was the first teaser that came out. The second teaser that came out is a bit more obvious, but still has some interesting stuff in it. Hold on one second for anyone who's watching. So this is the second one that came out, and again, it just shows a Corolla at the back, but you can clearly see the camouflage GR Corolla on the left-hand side. And if on the full image, if you zoom in, you can see on this red
shipping container.
Shipping container. Thank you. You see NA, okay, North America, G16. Again, we already said the engine. GR4. And GR4 is what Toyota calls the GR Yaris's all-wheel drive system. So you look at that and you're like, oh, North America, G16 turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, GR4, this high-tech all-wheel drive system with an image of the GR Corolla next to it.
And what's even better, Bruce, because I think I wrote this article up.
You did?
I saw the picture, and sort of an old school trick before automakers got wise. Automakers would occasionally put out teaser photos of vehicles, and they would lower the brightness so everything was shadowed. So all you could see was like maybe a glint of light off of a fender. So, okay, us journalists, we get that photo, we drop it into Photoshop, we increase the light levels.
Just love
and all of a sudden, poof, here's the entire car that they didn't mean to show, and now we can see it. Well, automakers got wise to that. So when they would put out teasers, they would block out the rest of the car. It would look shadowed, but if you raise the brightness, you're still not seeing anything new. So, okay, I'm thinking, well, we'll give it a shot. This is obviously a teaser photo. We'll increase the brightness. I increased the brightness, and they didn't obscure anything back there in that corner. So with the brightness up and zoomed in, you can actually see it says 4 right on the side of the car.
I actually can't see, GR4. If you look real close there, if anyone's watching.
I actually didn't pick up on the shipping container clues right off the bat. A reader pointed it out in the comments, and thank you for doing that if you're listening. I mean, that slipped by me, but the fact that Toyota didn't bother to try to obscure anything, it's like, okay, well, they know people are going to do that. And then there is a third teaser that came out,
which is like literally 3 frames of a video. It's hilarious. Like we put in the title "Blink and You'll Miss It" because it's literally just like a handful of frames of this video, but it shows a really good shot of the GR4. You get a glimpse of a pedal and a glimpse of the nose.
And this teaser was, and again, it's they're talking about the Toyota, the sports car, the
GR86. Yeah.
And again, no mention of the GR Corolla, but it's just like, there's like maybe a second worth of 3 or 4 really quick cut screens where you get a glimpse of the GR Corolla in camouflage. You get a quick glimpse of somebody obviously shifting gears with 3 pedals and a lever or a stick. And, that's the teaser. Okay. So now we have a GR Corolla, turbocharged 3-cylinder, 268 horsepower, all-wheel drive, manual transmission. Sigh. That sounds like such a fun car to drive.
And it's a hatchback. So for all of those people out there saying, oh, I wish the Subaru WRX was a hatchback.
There you go.
It's here. Like this is
go.
The next
Subaru
best thing.
Oh, that was another aspect of this teaser. Our colleague, Adrian Padnow, when this first went up, apparently there was either another scene, another cut screen, or another image that was in the Instagram account where it showed the entire car in camouflage. And that's the lead image. That's the lead image that we have on this article. That was grabbed, and then Toyota apparently took it down. Again, was it an actual mistake, or was it Toyota saying, oops, oh no, we accidentally put this up there, and now we took it down because you are not supposed to see it. You know, come on, Toyota. This is how teaser campaigns should be.
It is.
As long as we get something within like a month or two at most. If this crap is still going on like January 2023, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh yeah, then you're just.
I'm going to be pissed, and I'm going to have another car in the garage. So Toyota, come on, you got to get this thing out. I want to buy it.
Yeah. It's cool. It's nice to see Toyota having a legit hot hatch again. That's not something that's really happened for a while. It seems like it's really cool. Toyota, hey, if anyone from Toyota is listening, can you make sure you offer an automatic though, so I can buy one? Because my wife and I have talked, unless it's like a cheap fun car, we're done with manuals. So I need an automatic.
Yeah, see, my wife won't drive. I mean, she can drive one, but she won't. She doesn't want to drive one. I totally don't care. Sorry, Michelle. Sorry.
Well,
if this comes out and it's a decent price, I'm damn getting it. And if you want to drive it, you can drive a manual. You'll be all right.
Totally.
We'll go out. We'll do some all-wheel drive donuts. You'll be converted. That'll be it.
Oh yeah, I think this is going to. So the thing is that the GR Yaris has been forbidden fruit for 18 months or so now, and every review just says how fantastic it is. Tuners in Europe have figured out how to extract. There was one, it was like well over 300 horsepower from a 1.6 liter 3-cylinder. Like,
yeah,
it just seems like it's a fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking up the story now. There is one that has had no internal engine work done, although some other work. It is making 473 horsepower.
Oh my God.
On a stock block.
Okay, I know it doesn't have any engine work done, but I mean, let's be realistic. It's gonna have some engine work done soon, whether the owner wants to or not. No,
I'm not saying that you sounds like do extreme. That, but that it just sounds like an absolute peach of an engine. So,
I mean, this car. Hey, you're not going to take it to the drag strip and
that's not what it's for.
And waste Mustangs or Camaros. But hey, like our colleague Jeff Perez said, that car is going to be a riot. Just so much fun to drive every day. I would be finding every back road trail possible. I don't want to be on pavement with that car. I want to have somebody sitting next to me yelling out 5 right over crest while I'm just hammering, man. Yeah.
Well, let's end the show with another very competent off-road vehicle, although a competent off-road vehicle of a different kind. Let's talk about the Raptor R real quick.
Okay.
That we know it's coming later in 2022. A lot of people, not a lot of people, some people who I don't agree with were upset when the latest Raptor went to the EcoBoost V6. They wanted their Raptor with a V8, and Ford clearly sees that there's money there. So you are going to get a Raptor with Ford's Predator 5.2 liter supercharged V8. We don't know exact horsepower figures yet, but in the Shelby GT500, that engine makes 760 horsepower.
Well, I can tell you some version of an exact figure, Bruce. It'll be more than the Ram TRX.
Okay.
It will be. I mean, there's no way Ford can come out with this using the engine from the GT500 that already makes quite a bit more than TRX. There's no way Ford could come out with this and have it be less than the TRX. So that's what, 702 horsepower. It's going to be, we know, 150,000% certainty it's going to be more than 702 horsepower. And if it's not, I would
be shocked, because that engine could easily, I mean, it's making 760 in the Shelby. It can make that, at least in the truck.
Yeah, but hey, you never there might be some weird thing with the transmission where they have to limit.
Maybe
Ford somehow doesn't know that worked out and have it be more than the TRX. It's like I don't care if it's 701. I don't care if it's faster in a quarter mile. I don't care if it gets to 60 faster than TRX. If it doesn't have more power, every bench racer in the world will be laughing at Ford. So I'm saying it here, more than 702 horsepower.
I believe that. And so the rumor is this will debut in late 2022. To me, whenever I hear late, that probably means third or fourth quarter. Maybe they'll slip a few out before the end of the year. But if you're actually buying one, we'll see it in 2022. I bet you won't get one until 2023.
And I mean, it's not going to be a volume seller by any means.
Oh, God, no. It's going to be a pricey vehicle.
It's not going to be a machine that changes the automotive landscape. No. But I think it's going to be significant because, and we're saying this a lot, Bruce, I think this will be the end of an era. I think this will be the last time you'll see any sort of big, crazy powered internal combustion pickup truck.
Yeah. Especially since, you could do a plug-in hybrid Raptor or something like that and easily make even more power and have better emissions and have better fuel economy. It's going to weigh more. So, the handling might not be quite as crisp, but for, most people aren't going to be taking these things out to Baja or whatever. So yeah, you're probably right. This could be the last of the run. So be happy with it.
Pour one out and have a drink.
Yep. Do you want that to be the show? Do we want to hit Bronco Raptor real quick, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess we can kind of segue right from right from Ford Raptor, F-150 Raptor to Bronco Raptor R, right?
Let's just hit this real quick.
Or not R, but it's Bronco Raptor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Bronco is still on the minds of everybody. I'm shocked at just the way the Bronco mania is still enduring.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Ford, bravo. You've come out with a vehicle that I don't think many people were thinking about until it was kind of mentioned, hey, let's bring the Bronco back. And then everybody started realizing, man, this is a market that Jeep has just kind of had by itself with the Wrangler. Mm-hmm. And now here's a chance to take everything that's wrong with the Wrangler. And sorry, Wrangler people, but there are some things wrong with it. And we'll try to address that. And we'll bring back the Bronco in sort of its original form instead of the F-Series based Bronco that we had for so many years. And with the Raptor coming, you know what? Well, I think we'll see a second wave, not just of people deciding they have to have a Bronco Raptor right now, but a second wave of people saying, okay, you know what? Maybe I can't get the Raptor, but damn it, I want a Bronco. So I think it'll be significant in that standpoint, from that standpoint right there, just of reinvigorating something that's already invigorated.
And we know that there's also going to be the Bronco Everglades, which will have the same powertrain as the regular one, but will come with a factory snorkel and winch from what we've been seeing in Spy Shot. So Ford's only going to build more variants of the Bronco. So yeah, it'll be another big year for Bronco. I have to say, I was with my parents over the holiday. I saw my very, very first two-door Bronco, and it wasn't even on the road. It was at a dealer. For whatever reason, around my parts in Ohio, the two doors, I just don't see them. But I actually think it looks better. Like, in my opinion, I understand it's far less utilitarian, but if it were my money, I think I'd go with the two-door.
Same thing. I mean, same thing with me. Same thing with the Wrangler. I've said for years the four-door Wrangler is just the poor imitation. It's the money grab. It's still a extremely capable vehicle off road, but when you talk about Wrangler, you're talking about something small, nimble, that just goes anywhere it wants to. And when you stretch the wheelbase, when you add two more doors, it takes away a little something. Now, Bronco, I mean, it's relaunched with 2 and 4 doors, so maybe it doesn't hit me quite as hard as the Wrangler does. But
I would just like to see more. Like, literally, I've seen one in person around me. So in pictures, at least, I like the two-door. But I'd like to see more of them.
If I were to have
Oh,
one, I would have the 2-door, but then again, I don't have a family. It's just my wife and I, and we're not carrying a bunch of people.
yeah.
And I would have the Bronco 2-door, and I would enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah. Well, that is our look at to the future of the auto industry for 2022 and beyond in some cases. I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think it's going to be a fun year. I think it's going to be a good year for rambling about cars.
Mhm.
We have some kind of tentative plans. We have some talking to do tomorrow. And yeah, we're looking forward to things.
It's gonna be a good
So
year. Our next episode will kind of return to normal where we're
yeah,
talking comments and things. We
yeah,
appreciate the people that have been commenting. We just had so much to get through the last few weeks. We really appreciate
yeah.
the warm wishes for New Year and for holidays that we've received.
Mhm.
Please, please, please keep all of that coming. You can always comment on our articles that go up at Motor One every Friday that tells you a little
Mhm.
bit about the podcast. You can always go to our YouTube channel, Motor One Podcast, comment there. You can always email us podcast@motor1.com. We love to hear from you. Of course, you know that we read the article or we read your comments on the air. We love having that feedback. We're really looking forward to more of that going into 2022. And of course, follow us, like us, subscribe us everywhere you can. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcast, Google, so many different platforms you can follow us on. And this ride is going to get bigger and better.
Exactly. And as always, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. We appreciate every listener, every comment, everything. Like Smith said, like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever you want to call it. Like I said earlier, if you are listening on Spotify, rate us there. If you're listening to us there, it's appreciated. I know it's easy to do and it's something new. So maybe we can, get some stuff there in like the automotive category quick. So that'd be cool. But yeah, as always, it's been a fun episode. It's been great talking to you, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Bye bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.